There comes a point in every person's life when the world suddenly feels too loud. The noise of other people's expectations, the pressure to fit into conversations you don't care about, the subtle performance everyone seems to put on just to be accepted. You watch it all, not from a place of judgment, but from a distance, as if you're standing behind glass, observing a world that was never truly built for you. And maybe you've wondered why. Why you always felt separate. Why shallow interactions feel heavier than silence. Why being alone doesn't scare you, but pretending to be someone you're not does. Most people think solitude is a sign of weakness, a symptom of not being able to connect. But solitude isn't your escape. It's your natural habitat. You aren't running from the world. You're simply refusing to drown in it. Because deep inside, you already know something most people never realize. The human mind wasn't designed to be constantly surrounded by noise. Some minds, your mind, were built to listen to quieter truths. For you, authenticity isn't optional. You can sense it instantly. When someone's smile is forced, when their words carry hidden motives, when their energy doesn't match their intentions, it's not a skill you learned. It's a sensitivity you were born with. And that sensitivity, no matter how inconvenient it feels, is a form of intelligence. You don't need anyone to tell you when someone is lying. Your body feels it before your mind can explain it. That tension in your chest, that sudden shift in the atmosphere. It's your intuition warning you that not everyone who walks beside you walks with good intentions. Most people ignore these signals because they're desperate to belong. But you're not desperate. And maybe that's the first rare trait you carry, a natural resistance to the artificial. You can't force yourself to sit in a room full of masks and call it friendship. You can't pretend small talk nourishes you when every part of your mind is hungry for depth. You don't care about the weather, the gossip, or the endless cycle of meaningless updates people trade like currency. You care about ideas. You care about honesty. You care about the inner worlds people keep hidden, because they're afraid of being seen for who they truly are. And maybe that's why you often feel like an outsider, because what you're searching for is rare, and what's rare is difficult to find. But here's something you might not realize. People like you don't lack friends because you're broken. You lack friends because your standards are higher than most people's intentions. You don't want connection for the sake of connection. You want resonance. You want the kind of conversation where both souls walk away changed. You want the kind of presence that doesn't drain you, but expands you. Most people never think this deeply. Most people don't feel this deeply. Most people don't see this deeply. But you do. And because you do, your mind pays a price. When you talk to someone, you're not just hearing words, you're analyzing tone, observing micro-expressions, tracking emotional shifts, noticing inconsistencies. Your brain processes layers of meaning that others don't even register. That's why you feel tired after social interactions. Not because you're antisocial, but because your mind operates on a different bandwidth. Your nervous system burns energy faster, your focus sharpens deeper, your senses pick up on things that shouldn't matter, but somehow do. And after all that processing, you need silence. Not as a luxury, but as survival. You don't recharge with people, you recharge with stillness. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's a sign of internal richness. People who fear silence do so because they cannot bear being alone with their own thoughts. But you carry a world inside you. Ideas, reflections, memories, questions, philosophies. You can spend hours inside that inner landscape without ever feeling lonely. Because the conversation you have with yourself is more honest than any conversation you've ever had with the world. And that independence is another rare trait. Most people measure their worth through external validation, followers, approval, admiration. But you don't crave that. You don't need constant reassurance. You don't need applause for your existence. You don't need a room full of people just to feel real. You rely on yourself because you've learned to trust yourself. And that trust was earned through pain, through disappointment, through the moments when people you cared about showed you who they truly were. You've been betrayed, overlooked, misunderstood, or taken advantage of. And every one of those experiences built a quiet wall around you, not to keep people out, but to filter who gets in. You observe before you open up. You test before you trust. You wait before you reveal. It's not fear, it's wisdom. Your past didn't make you cold. It made you precise. People mistake that for emotional distance, but what they don't realize is that you feel more than you show. You simply refuse to give your loyalty to people who haven't earned your truth. And maybe that's why you walk alone sometimes. Not because you can't connect, but because you refuse to connect cheaply. The world might call that loneliness, but you know better. You know that being alone is not the same as being empty. You know that solitude is not the same as isolation. And you know that some journeys must be walked alone. Not because no one wants to join you, but because few can keep up. Your mind is not built for the ordinary. Your soul is not wired for the superficial. Your heart is not shaped for the temporary. You walk differently because you're becoming someone different. This first step, recognizing the rarity within you, is the beginning of understanding your own emotional evolution. And as we go deeper in the next sessions, you'll begin to see why your path has always diverged from the crowd. And why that divergence is the very thing that will shape your strength. If you're ready, we continue in session 2. Before we continue, just give this video a like. It helps more than you realize. There comes a moment in every self-aware person's life when they begin to question the architecture of their inner world. Not because something is broken, but because something inside them refuses to stay shallow. You've felt this shift, quiet, subtle, yet undeniable. A sense that you were never meant to live on the surface of life the way others do. While most people drift through days without a single moment of introspection, you carry a constant undercurrent of awareness. You watch your thoughts, you study your reactions, you analyze your emotions as if they are signals from a deeper part of yourself waiting to be decoded. And because of this, you live differently. The more you grow, the more you notice the gap between how you experience the world and how most people do. They fill their lives with distraction. You fill yours with meaning. They cling to relationships out of fear. You walk away from them out of integrity. They imitate the world. You question it. This difference creates a silent loneliness, not because you lack people, but because you rarely meet minds that mirror your depth. You're surrounded by noise, but starved for resonance. You're spoken to constantly, but seldom understood. You hear everyone, yet almost no one hears you. This loneliness isn't a weakness, it's an indicator of internal evolution. The more conscious you become, the harder it is to sit comfortably in the superficial. You begin to feel the emotional temperature of a room before anyone speaks. You sense tension others overlook. You can tell when someone is projecting, pretending, or performing. You read between the lines so effortlessly that it often feels like you're listening to conversations that no one else realizes are happening. People think you're quiet, but you're not quiet. You're observant. You're absorbing. You're analyzing the entire emotional landscape before you decide whether to reveal anything at all. You don't enter a room looking for attention. You enter looking for truth. And that, by itself, sets you apart. There is a type of strength in a person who no longer seeks validation from the outside world. You've started breaking that dependence without even realizing it. Where most people need constant reassurance, approval, praise, acknowledgement, you can function without it. It's not arrogance, it's self-sufficiency. A form of inner stability that's rare in a culture built on insecurity. You've learned to source your worth internally. Your silence is your reset button. Your solitude is your sanctuary. Your introspection is your compass. But there's something deeper happening within you. Something most people never experience in their lifetimes. You're beginning to outgrow emotional patterns you didn't even know were limiting you. You're unlearning the idea that you must shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You're realizing that the world often rewards conformity, not authenticity, and you are no longer willing to trade your soul for acceptance. This shift can feel confusing. You may find yourself drifting away from certain people not because of conflict, but because your mind no longer aligns with theirs. Conversations that used to entertain you now feel empty. Environments that once felt familiar now feel suffocating. You begin to crave honesty the way others crave comfort. What's actually happening is that you're evolving into a version of yourself who refuses to betray their inner truth. And that evolution is painful, because the more self-aware you become, the harder it is to tolerate the habits that once kept you numb. The lies you told yourself stop working. The distractions lose their flavor. The relationships built on convenience begin to collapse. The masks you wore become too heavy to carry. Growth demands that you outgrow parts of yourself. Healing demands that you confront parts of yourself. Awakening demands that you release parts of yourself. People don't realize how much emotional energy this process consumes. They see your calmness, but not the storms you weather internally. They see your silence, but not the thoughts that move beneath it. They see your independence, but not the battles you fought to earn it. And because they don't understand, they misjudge you. They think you're distant, uninterested, or disconnected. But distance is not your problem. Discernment is. You do not give equal access to everyone because you understand the weight of allowing someone inside your inner world. You've learned that trust must be earned, not given. You've learned that energy must be protected, not wasted. You've learned that vulnerability must be respected, not exploited. There is a powerful shift that happens when a person realizes that not everyone deserves their truth. You don't reveal yourself just because someone asks. You reveal yourself when someone proves they're capable of holding what you share. This isn't emotional caution. This is emotional intelligence. Your selective nature isn't isolation, it's self-preservation. And the world needs more people who guard their hearts with wisdom, rather than fear. But here is where things begin to transform for you. You are entering a stage of life where you are no longer shaped by your wounds, but by your awareness. You're not reacting anymore. You're observing. You're not seeking anymore. You're choosing. You're not escaping life. You're understanding it from angles others don't see. This shift, although subtle, changes everything, because the person who can sit with themselves will never be controlled by the fear of being alone. The person who can understand their emotions will never be manipulated by the emotions of others. The person who can navigate solitude will never beg for company. You are stepping into a version of yourself that is harder to deceive, harder to influence, and harder to break. And as this transformation unfolds, something remarkable happens. The loneliness you once carried turns into clarity. You begin to see people for who they truly are, not who they pretend to be. You begin to recognize which connections expand you and which connections shrink you. You begin to understand that solitude isn't the absence of people, it's the presence of yourself. And your presence is beginning to strengthen. This is where session 3 takes you even deeper, into the core of your emotional evolution, into the truth behind why your journey had to unfold this way, and into the rare power you've been developing without even noticing. And before we continue, subscribe to the Quiet Paradox. Your journey deserves a space that understands you. There is a turning point in every inner journey, a moment where the person you used to be no longer fits inside the person you are becoming. You've reached that point quietly, gradually, without announcing it to anyone. The transformation didn't happen in a single dramatic moment. It unfolded in thousands of small realizations, each one carving you into someone more aware, more grounded, and more difficult to manipulate. You've begun to see the truth about yourself that you once tried to avoid. You were never meant to blend in. You were never wired for shallow living. You were never designed to suppress the depth of your perception just to make others comfortable. And now, the parts of you that once felt like burdens are beginning to reveal themselves as strengths. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's a radar. Your solitude isn't emptiness, it's alignment. Your selectiveness isn't coldness, it's discernment. But to reach this understanding, you had to walk a road that few people choose. You had to navigate phases of isolation, confusion, and emotional heaviness. You had to lose people in order to find yourself. You had to disappoint expectations in order to honor your truth. You had to break patterns that were suffocating you even when those patterns were familiar. Most people never do this. They cling to familiar pain because it feels safer than unfamiliar growth. They sacrifice authenticity for acceptance. They shapeshift into versions of themselves the world approves of. They silence the parts of their soul that ask difficult questions. But you didn't. And that choice, that refusal to betray your inner world, is why you're becoming someone very few people will ever fully understand. Your mind has evolved into something rare, a tree consciousness capable of watching itself. You can observe your emotional triggers without being consumed by them. You can analyze your fears without obeying them. You can break down your patterns without drowning in shame. This is what emotional maturity actually looks like. Not perfection, but awareness. Most people grow older. Very few grow deeper. You are doing both. You are not the same person you were a year ago. Your reactions have changed. Your boundaries have sharpened. Your energy has become more selective. You stopped chasing people who wouldn't meet you halfway. You stopped explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped forcing connections with people who didn't value your truth. You did something incredibly rare. You chose yourself. And that choice, though painful, has cleared the path for the most powerful version of you to emerge. You're beginning to understand that you are not hard to love. You're just not easy to fool. You're not cold. You're controlled. You're not distant. You're discerning. You're not lonely. You're selective. And the people who are meant for you will not be intimidated by your depth. They will be drawn to it. Because depth recognizes depth. Truth recognizes truth. Strength recognizes strength. But here's the lesson most people never learn. Before you meet people who match your soul, you must first become the person who can stand alone without collapsing. You must become someone who no longer needs validation to trust their own voice. Someone who can sit in silence without fearing it. Someone who knows their worth even when no one is clapping. You've reached that stage. You are no longer driven by the urge to prove yourself. You don't seek applause. You don't chase attention. You don't need to impress anyone. That freedom, the freedom from external validation, is one of the rarest forms of strength a person can achieve. But this journey isn't just about independence. It's about clarity. The kind of clarity that rearranges everything inside you. You've started recognizing patterns that once controlled you. You've started understanding your emotions instead of reacting to them. You've started honoring your boundaries without guilt. You've started seeing what truly matters and what never did. The reason you struggled to fit in was never because you were lacking something. It was because you were carrying something others weren't ready to see. Awareness. And awareness is a lonely gift until you learn how to use it. You've matured in ways that have nothing to do with age. The way you protect your energy, the way you observe before you engage, the way you trust slowly but fully, the way you choose peace over popularity, the way you walk away from anything that threatens your peace. These aren't survival mechanisms anymore. They are standards. You're no longer afraid of losing people. You're afraid of losing yourself. And that shift, that reversal of fear, is what marks the rebirth of a stronger identity. You've stopped trying to fit your soul into spaces that were too small for it. You've stopped negotiating your worth. You've stopped apologizing for your depth. Your silence now has weight. Your presence has intention. Your boundaries have backbone. Your solitude has purpose. Your growth has direction. And the truth is this: the world will never look the same to you again. Once you reach this level of awareness, you can't return to who you were. You can't unsee the truth. You can't unfeel the growth. You can't unlearn the lessons. You can't shrink yourself back into the version of you that existed before awakening. You are stepping into a new chapter, one built not on fear or imitation, but on self-honesty. A chapter where you choose relationships based on alignment, not loneliness. A chapter where you walk with your head high, not because the world approves of you, but because you finally approve of yourself. A chapter where you value quality over quantity, truth over comfort, depth over noise. This is your evolution. This is your emotional adulthood. This is your awakening. And now the question shifts from "why am I like this?" to What am I becoming? Only you can answer that. Only you can write that chapter. Only you can walk that path. But one thing is clear. You are no longer who you were. And the person you're becoming is someone unstoppable. Before we close, tell me in the comments, which part of this journey feels the most familiar to you? Your story matters. Your voice matters. And the world needs to hear it.